Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to this edition, or the inaugural edition of the final whistle on LayerMedia.tv, our weekly sports programme. And our two presenters of that programme are in the studio with myself tonight for the first programme, which is good evening, Chris Price.
Good evening, Pat. How are you tonight?
Good evening, James O'Brien, and welcome, lads.
Good evening, Pat. I'd just like to say that it's very, very impressive to think that the LayerMedia studio has an 18-hole golf course, a lake, and a very, very large sports stadium in it. So are we impressive or what?
Corporate boxes have been paid for all three, Jimmy.
We don't.
Corporate boxes have been paid for all three.
And all the money came to us since John Delaney's gone.
Oh, yeah.
There you go now.
Don't mention the war, Jimmy. Don't mention the war.
There goes our license.
There goes your license.
By half here, I tell you, we don't do things. But for our viewers tonight, we'll be watching this later on, the final whistle. Both Chris and Jimmy, as I said, will be the co-presenters of this exciting venture, and I'm looking forward to it anyway, lads. And we have plenty to talk about anyway. We're going to cover as much as we can tonight on the show, and we're going to start off with hurling. I suppose the Alliance Hurling League this weekend and they're taking a break after this weekend, so it'll be for us as well to take stock of where all the teams are, as many as we can, as much as we can, statistically speaking, where they are in their each thing. So we're going to open up with, I suppose, the important one was Waterford and Limerick, and we're going to open up with the first clip we're going to see from Waterford and Limerick. Is, I think, a seminal moment in the match that we...
Kieran Bennett, he got Waterford's opening point of the match. That one has also cut over. Lovely point by Kieran Bennett, and Waterford staying in touch with Limerick here. Hannon strikes this one over the bar, and there's a great point for Hannon, but there's a Waterford player down on his own 13-metre line, and the referee Paul O'Dwyer will have to go in and have a word with his umpires. They look at the top of the screen, Gleeson jostling there, and Hurley was flicked out. Paul O'Dwyer has spoken to his umpires as he calls over Seamus Flanagan. So a card is coming. What colour will it be? And it's a red, and Limerick are down to 14 players. Seamus Flanagan has been sent off.
That is one of the points in the match, lads. I know, did anyone really see the match? I happened to be minding my dad, so I got the chance to see the whole match, you know. What do you think, Chris, of the sending off?
Just straight sending off. There's no argument about it. He flicked across him, could have broken his hand, could have broken a bone in his finger, could have put him out of action for a few weeks. And this is the thing that the GA are trying to clamp down at. And they seem to be putting the cart before the horse. You know, instead of looking at some of the tackles and some of the frees that they're looking at, and the changing of the advantage rule, you know, what you've shown there is basically, you know, open and shut case, sent off, straight out, no debate, no argument, and that's what we want to see taken out of hurling like that. Not the 50-50 balls, the kind of shoulder to shoulder challenges, okay? Not the when, you know, when bodies come colliding, you know, that happens. But I mean, straightforward pull like that, it's an all-day sending off as far as I'm concerned, and there's no debate on that one.
And Jimmy, did you get a chance?
I'd have to agree wholeheartedly with Chris there on that. I think that hurling is such a very, very skillful game, and it's also capable of being a physical game, as Clare proved years ago, that you can be strong and tough and get on with it, and you can still have skillful teams doing well, even if they do get thumped all over the place. But it's that level of little niggledy shite that's and the problem with that type of attitude on the field is it gets worse. You know, tapping across a guy and hitting him on the shoulder is one thing, but when you start being allowed to get away with the minor little niggledy things, it's then they become less than minor. So you have to stop him somewhere.
You see, Jimmy, my problem about the rule book is this, right? I remember I went down to Walsh Park about 2 or 3 seasons ago.
How'd you find it?
We had sat nav. It's okay. I was there before. It's okay, But we went down to see Waterford and Clareland, and I advised the lads in the car on the way down that what you're going to see, and it's been like this for the last 5-6 years at least, if not more. You're going to see a match refereed on that particular start of the championship, right? That is going to be completely different to what the latter half of the championship season, because you have these guys who referees who are going out and they're basically being told, do as what the rule book says. Now, I have no problem with doing what the rule book, but what they're doing is that they're being over fussy. They're not letting the play go, and then they're applying the rules inconsistently. So when a guy gets pulled by the face mask, he's going to probably send him off, and then the next guy that pulls by the face mask, he's going to not send him off and give him a booking, because the way it goes, we have to even up, or we have to give these guys a break, whatever. So I've often said it before that you will see a very, very fussy referee in May, but when it comes to when it used to be September, it's going to be a referee who's left his whistle in the dressing room and said, play away, lads, what are you looking at me for? And that's the problem with GAA sport, not just in hurling, but Gaelic football. That, as Tomas O'Shea said yesterday on the radio, the rules are not being applied. I mean, if they want to introduce basketball to hurling and Gaelic football, fine, but at least apply the rules consistently so there's no ambiguity.
Yeah, and it's every sport, Chris. It's not just GAA, but it's across the board. You will. The one problem I've always had in every single sport is that when you see managers finding out who the referee is, and it's quite obvious in rugby, they openly talk about, we'll have to be careful with Wayne Barnes because he doesn't allow a ruck to form or whatever. But when you see a team getting so far because they didn't meet a certain type of ref, and then they get into an All-Ireland semi-final and they have no chance because they're getting pulled for everything and what they were able to get away with getting here, they suddenly can't. And it's not the game, it's not a test of skill. It's a test of who can watch videos more accurately.
Well, what's happening now in GAA is a common thing is we don't, and it happens at club level within the county structure, where clubs are now turning around to the county boards and says we're not playing if he referees a match again, because we don't like. I mean, I've gone to matches, and I've gone to matches with my own club involved, and I've had 30-40 people who are clearly watching this different game to what I'm refereeing or what I'm seeing on the sideline. And I've often turned around and said, are they watching the same game as I am? Because they're watching one team, green and white or red and white or whatever their coat, whatever their hue is. They're watching that particular match without looking at both shades. And what's happening is that they see, and they always say, come on, give it, that's a free. And I'm going, what's a free for? I know, but it's a free. But why should he give a free? And then they turn on you because he says, you only you what kind of a club man are you? The point I'm making is that if they don't get a free, then they think that the referee's against them. The referee can only give frees for when there's a free. But when you get a bad referee who gives frees where no one knows whether I've been to most of the finals in Thurles, and I have to be honest with you, I would spend more time watching the referee than the play because I'm looking to see when he's going to blow.
The point about
I think, sorry, Pat, I think I actually now looking mainly at Waterford games, because like anybody following any sport, I would always believe that the referee is favouring the other side. But even I've seen it, and it's been a long time since I hurled, and I don't watch it as much as I used to do. I certainly don't go to club games, as you would, Chris, and I can't tell. But I'm sitting here knowing something about the game, and I'm seeing 2 tackles going in, one by one team, one by the other team, and I just plain can't see how one is a free and the other one isn't. Now, I'm sure there's a reason. I'm sure the referee sees something, but Jesus, it's a huge pitch. And you're asking one man who is over the hill for playing the game.
I've said that for
To
years.
run
Jimmy.
around and catch up with people. Hockey is a piss poor, non-physical game, and they realized years ago you need 2 referees.
Said it for years.
But the thing, we won't get bogged down in the rules, but the thing about the match when Waterford and Limerick was that I liked the fact that the referee, as he should really, went in first and consulted with the 2 umpires, which is a good sign. But I think that was 2 turning points in that match yesterday. That was the first one, in my opinion, where Flanagan got sent off. To me, he's been the unsung hero of that team. He's a fantastic player. But I mean, straight red card now is coming up. The championship will be very close to league this year because of conditions in the country, and so that could very well be a blow for Limerick, which it will, of course. But the next clip we're going to see here, to me, was just fantastic in that same match as well, which is
trailing by 2 points. That was a huge puck all the way down towards the Limerick goal. Bennett's effort blocked down, and that's good defending again from Limerick. Sean Finn, all day long he's been brilliant. Now Bennett get this one across the box, and it's been taken there by Fagan, and Jack Fagan has put the ball to the back of the net, and it's a great goal for Waterford, and they lead. Stephen Bennett put it across. Jack Fagan rose highest and buried it.
Yeah, but that of course was Jack Fagan. But as you know, if you're from Waterford, you may not know, but Jack is a dual player, and his footballing skills, to my mind, came in there because they're used to that jumping because they don't have a stick, so they have to use their hands. So he's jumping for that ball coming across the square, in my opinion. But that was the second turning point in that match between Waterford and Clare. And of course, they went on, they held on, and they won pretty well in the end by 4 points, but in a tight match. But of course, Waterford were beaten in 2 vital matches by Limerick last year, both in the Munster final and the All-Ireland final. So, I mean, I suppose they have a lively young team. We don't want to dwell on Waterford too much. There was other games as well in the weekend. But a final thought on Waterford, Chris, because you're not from Waterford. A final thought on Waterford, are the signs positive for them as a team?
It's hard to say. Because the manner of last year's defeat was huge. I'm actually thinking these league matches are like glorified challenge games because it's just a fast run down to the championship, and teams are trying. I mean, Limerick didn't play their full team by anything, and probably neither did Waterford. So they're trying to players as quickly as they can, because they've only got another 4 weeks or 5 weeks before the championship hits them. I think Waterford will always suffer because they haven't got. If I put it this way, if Waterford had Tipperary's forwards, they'll win the All-Ireland, and they probably would have won 3 in the last 6-7 years, but they haven't, and that's the problem. If they had forwards that could shoot the lights out, they would be good enough. But I think that the style of hurling that they play is going to be difficult to kind of maintain over a short, snappy campaign. Last year in the final, they had an injury to Tyke de Burke, which basically derailed them. You cannot miss fellas like that. It's as simple as that. And I just feel that they actually, the way the championship draw is coming in, they'll have Clare in the first match. I think they'll beat Clare. Then they've got Tipperary. Now, even if they lose to Tipperary, they wouldn't be worried about that because they'll be in a qualifier before an Ireland quarterfinal. So they'd have matches after that. So getting a chance to have a crack off Tipperary, it's a free show for them. It's a free hand for them. But the biggest worry I have for Limerick is that it's not the 2 defeats don't bother me. It's that the style of play now has been read like a book by every single county in Ireland. That Limerick are going to have to think, do we actually have a plan B? There was certain times yesterday where they played that Waterford scored 121, 122, and I say 122, and I'd be honest with you, I'd say 7 or 8 points of that were from Limerick mistakes, and you cannot have that. I mean, it looked like Limerick of 2015, 2016 instead of 2018 and 20. Now, if they can get a grip of that and say, right, we can knuckle down as a team and we can go for 3 out of 4 All-Irelands, but I think they're going to have a plan B, because their style is going to be, their style can be matched with, and I think I think 2 teams in the country that will match up to their style would be Galway, and I think you can always never discount Kilkenny.
Okay, and
yeah, one thing I would say about the games that I have seen, the one thing that came to me watching Limerick playing Tipperary, just following on from what Chris was saying there, I just felt Tipperary had their B+ game with them, but I just got the sense watching Limerick that they had 2 more gears and they didn't really give a damn about it. They only came into it at the end, and that unfortunately is a damning indictment of club's attitude towards the league. I don't think any game in the league anywhere will tell you anything.
No, they won't. Glorified challenge matches this year.
I slightly have a different take on that, because the league and championship are so tied up together this year that when I know they're taking a break now next weekend from the league, but I think to be hammer and tongs after that, because managers and selectors will want to be saying, I want my best 15 now on the pitch before the end of the league. Now, just for our listeners here, the Cork had a no contest really in that division against Westmeath, which was really seven goals and 27 points. Really doesn't do Cork any good or Westmeath any good. I don't care what people are saying about giving the weak teams. I think it's a no-go area. Galway are in second place in the table, and Tipperary are at 4 points as well. Waterford have 4 points. Limerick has 1 point from 3 games, and Westmeath have no point. But so they'll be taking a break when they come back. I suppose there's always a question mark about hurlers of the week, the hurling team of the week, or the hurler of the week. And in Division 1, the 3 hurlers that was suggested for the writers on Gaelic games was Cathal Barrett from Tipperary, who to be at a fantastic game. Declan Coulter. Now, Declan Coulter had a great match, and they had a great win over Mayo. He scored 2 goals and 8 points. Callum Lyons from Waterford, to me, was the hurler of the week, because he got 3 points on play, but his play at wing back, to me, was a joy to behold. I don't know about you. He stuffed out the Limerick very much, and Gleeson at centre back did a great job without going forward. I think he's found his position, because they did put shackles on Limerick. But as you said, we don't know. We don't read too much into it. But the final whistle is the programme, lads, here on lairmedia.tv. And we have an email, info@lairmedia.tv, with Chris and Jimmy and myself. And Chris and Jimmy will be your hosts after this inaugural programme. We're going to move along to, well, I think for all viewers, for all, fans of golf. And I am a fan. I'm not a big fan, but I am a fan. I like, well, of course, when the majors are on, everybody watches the majors. But Phil Mickelson, the man from San Diego, touching 51. That's not very old, but in golf terms, I think he became the oldest major winner over the weekend. Did he? Yep. Jimmy, did you get to see much of it?
I did. I actually saw the best of Mickelson. I saw the first 3 rounds. And I would have to say, throughout all my time playing golf, which ended a long time ago, they were always trying to muzzle the big hitters, the John Daly's and the Tiger Woods and the whole lot. And you find that the Americans on the PGA Tour certainly have found a way to soften the effect of the huge hitters by making golfers think their way around the course. And that's why Mickelson won, because he could think his way around the course. And I'd point you to, I don't know whether Chris will agree with this or not, one shot yesterday. Mickelson was in what they called waste areas. We used to call them bunkers in Shannon because we didn't dare call them waste areas. We'd have our membership pulled. But he was in there and he hit a shot over a tree to a couple of inches for a birdie. And your Jordan Spieths and your Brooks Koepka with their cultured, coached swing.
And McIlroy.
Wouldn't have a... And McIlroy. McIlroy surprises me because he played links golf. He should be able to think his way around the course. But he's been taken in hand by coaches who are teaching him about the pure strokes. And that shot from Mickelson was straight out of 40 years experience playing golf. I don't think that many people, as witness the fact that Harrington was able to finish up. He finished what? Joint fourth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Another old fella who was able to think his way around a difficult course. And that was very heartening because it's not just oomph guys. I mean, Bryson DeChambeau was out of the competition. Did he even make the cut with his booming shots?
He did.
400 miles down the fairway, and he winding up on the wrong side of a camber on the greens, and he just couldn't get anything right because he just doesn't know how to change his game. I was thrilled for Mickelson. He was an awful prick when he was a young fella, but he's turned out to be a lovely man, I have to admit, and I was thrilled for him. Lefty.
And Chris, did you get to see much of it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I had the time to watch it, so I just felt that it was Mickelson's to lose. That, you know, all he needed to do was just play his own. I mean, I found that when he walked onto the tee yesterday, and I'm not sure, maybe you might disagree with me on this, but I just felt that the aviator glasses he's wearing is kind of like a facade, right? That is basically trying to cover, which I detected a sign of nervousness off him yesterday as he went out. He wasn't his usual jovial self or fist pumping at the very beginning. He was very nervous. Couple of shots in the first four to six holes were, wow, that's a bit strange. Didn't think he'd play that kind of a shot. Then something kind of got him and said, look, maybe his caddy, his brother, had a word with him and said, look,
He did, actually.
if you're not going to be committed to this, then you're going to lose it. You got to go with your committed shots.
He did say that in an interview. I was listening to his brother took him aside because I think as you said, he felt in his own head that I have to do something different for the final round to close out this, and his brother said, "Stop, Phil,
Stop. There were some shots that were very, very poor.
Doing the same thing that you're noted for."
Yeah.
Let's be fair here, lads. It was played in Kiowa Island in South Carolina, which is a very, very warm part of the country, and he's 51 years of age. I think he was just simply tired on the fourth day.
He looked tired.
Very draining golf.
He looked tired. He looked drained. He was deliberately walking slowly. I mean, yesterday the round took 4 hours 40 minutes for a two ball.
That's shocking.
It's shocking. It is very, very bad. And I mean, the thing about it is that he deliberately walked slow, right? I mean, and this is the point about the golf, right? Unless you're a Chinese 14-year-old playing the Masters for the very first time and you're overall by the place, they're not going to penalize the big stars for slow play. You know, there's no point putting them on the clock. There's no point finding these guys. You're just going to have to say, do you know what, Phil? 2 strokes. There you go, son. Simple as that. Add him up.
And and a huge congratulations to Phil Mickelson. But what about our two amigos with the green, white, and gold behind them? Paddy and Shane paired together. I would love to have been following them because I just.
You see, Pat, the problem is this, right? They weren't even. They're getting about 500 grand each, and they weren't even an Masters war winning the damn thing.
No, they were.
They weren't.
No,
Pat, they weren't. Pat, they weren't. Pat, they were never going to. I mean, fair play to them, good luck to them, but they came joint fourth by default because they were in so far early compared to everyone else that they all started falling back.
They did. But that often happens in majors when people go around the turn in majors. You look at the famous one that Greg Norman against
but
Nick Faldo.
What happens there is that and McIlroy can be accused of this as well.
Yeah.
Where he may be 4 or 5 shots behind with maybe 10 holes to go, and instead of being patient, he'll throw the kitchen sink at every hole, and then he's going to mess up. I mean, we've talked about McIlroy before. McIlroy can hit a drive 340, 360 like the best of them. However, for that level of golf, right, his wedge play from 100 yards out, 110 yards out is one of the worst I've seen. Koepka won his 4 majors by dialing in and by having such a wedge game that he was able to have most of his putts from 10, 12 feet. The problem with McIlroy is most of the times he's putting from 30 feet. And then if he misreads his putt, he's then putting pressure on his second putt, which leads him to making more bogeys than he should. And that's down to him having poor wedge play.
Yeah, but
that's exactly what happens.
I've listened to some interviews, sorry, before we come in, Jim, on the Golf Channel and places like that. I like some of them, but the elephant in the room to me with people, and not singling out McIlroy is the only one for this now, but since we're speaking about him, what is the motivation for him to win anything anymore?
There's no motivation anymore.
He has so much money that he'll never have it all spent in this lifetime. So what is the motivation?
There is no motivation. They've no hunger. That's why McIlroy will go out and win a tournament if he's in it, right? But the problem is he's not able to string 4 rounds in a row. I mean, even when he won that tournament the other week, you mean he just got over the line. It was like a 400-meter hurdle race when it came down to just dipping your head over the line. That's basically what it came down to in the end.
And he has 4 majors, and Harrington has 3 majors, and now he has 1.
Yeah, but the problem is, you see, Pat, is that he's 4 majors and he hasn't won the major since 2014, right? Yeah. When he was what? He's 32 now, so take 7 years off that, he was 25, right? And, he's got whatever he has, 150, 200 million in the bank. His priorities have changed here now. He doesn't have to worry about... See, the problem with golf now to the golf that I grew up in the 80s was this, right? That the likes of Nick Faldo, Seve Ballesteros, I mean, Faldo said this recently, he had to win tournaments to make ends meet, okay? Now, he's stretching the point, but these guys played 40-odd tournaments a year. The best of them only playing about 19, 20 tournaments a year. They can pick the schedule that suits them. And let's be honest about it. When you look at the money a guy who came 48th yesterday at Club Pro, I looked it up last night because I'm just saying, right, this money is going to be a bit life-changing for him. A Club Pro, he came 48th and he won 30 grand.
Oh, that's great.
Right? But that's the point. So if you come 48th, all you need in the USPGA is to have maybe 5 top 10s a year, and you're going to be earning 2 million.
And there was a guy.
Actually, Pat, just following on from what Chris said there. One thing that stunned me quite a lot of years ago, coming to the end of my playing in the early noughties, there was a statistic came out about the PGA Tour, and it was something ludicrous, like there was 400 millionaire golfers in the States who have never won, who have never been in the top 10 and never got past the cut in a major. There's so much money at the lower levels there. And when you give a guy like McIlroy, this is why I admire Woods until he discovered naughtiness. No matter how much money he got, and he was given 100 million when he turned pro by Nike, right? Just like that. Yeah. But he still obviously had the hunger. Maybe it was his color, I don't know. Maybe it was the way his daddy reared him, I don't know. Yeah. But I think the problem with McIlroy, and Chris is 100% right, the problem with him is he's 4 or 5 shots off the lead and he can go, yeah, shit, I'll give it a rub and I'll take on the ridiculous shots. and the whole lot. And I
Tin
keep
Cup.
thinking back to when Faldo beat the Shark,
Norman, yeah.
Greg Norman. He was interviewed afterwards, and his comment was, I didn't have to catch the Shark.
Yeah.
I just had to wait for him to come back to me.
Yeah.
Faldo didn't play that exceptionally well.
No.
It's just Norman had, and I played games where you've had a big lead, and it's the worst thing you can have in a game like golf is a big lead, because you can say, Yara, I can drop a shot. Yara, I can drop a shot. All of a sudden, your 6-shot lead is now down to 3. There's 9 holes left to play, and there's a good guy breathing up behind you, and you panic. And that was what happened to Norman.
I'm watching the clock. The final.
But Pat, just before you go on that, I think it's very incumbent to say this point about what's happening in modern day golf, and what Jimmy has said there is quite appropriate. I mean, at 6:30 last night, half an hour after. No, I think it was. I think about maybe 6 o'clock last night, maybe half an hour after Harrington and Lowry teed off. Harrington was tied 41st. Right now, he only shot 3 under, and I mean that with respect to the man, because 3 under at Kiowa Ireland is an unbelievable score at that age, right? But he didn't shoot 64. He didn't shoot 62. All he did was shoot 69, right?
Yeah.
And he then climbed up 37 places on the leaderboard by just 3 strokes. And I was sitting here last night with the lads, and I'm saying, and they got up to 2. Himself and Larry got up to 2 under, and they were like tied 11th to 12th. And I said to lads, what's going to happen here now is that the likes of Streelman, the likes of Koepka, the likes of Westhuizen, they're going to go for it, and they're going to blow it, because they're going to take on the impossible shots at the wrong time.
And the wrong course.
The final whistle of the program. We wish Phil well, and we wish Lowry and Harrington, all the rest of the golfers. There was a golfer 2 weeks ago in the final Modern Golf. He played 418 times, and he won for the very first time 3 weeks ago in the tournament. So there you go, lads. It's never too late. It's never too late. The final whistle is the program on Media.tv. Now across the pond, we're not going to mention the Eurovision. But Manchester City.
Yes, please.
Go on. That's a sport in itself.
Go on.
That's a sport in itself, Pat.
Null point thing.
Manchester City won the Premier League. Lads, I don't know about you. I like soccer, but there are certain things in soccer I cannot warm to. For some reason or another, and this is not a personal attack on any member of the team of Manchester City or their management. I can't warm to a team that's paid for by people who should be doing something else with their money. They bought the team, they paid for them, they won the championship. So there's no connection at all where they won the Premier League.
When did you discover that, Pat?
Sorry,
what point are you trying to make, Pat? What point are you trying to make?
I'm making the point about Manchester City in particular.
Why Manchester? Okay, hang on a second. Why Manchester City?
They, to my mind, are the biggest mercenary team in soccer today.
Okay, I can name you 15 at the drop of a hat. Real Madrid, Barcelona, okay, Bayern Munich, any of the London clubs, definitely Spurs, right? Man United, they've lost their soul. Even Liverpool's lost their soul, okay? Newcastle 20 years ago, their directors were bragging in front of escorts that they were buying jerseys for €5 a pop and selling them for 55 quid. So when did you discover this, Pat?
Tottenham Hotspur hasn't won anything.
Exactly. So, I mean, you look at that, there are those 12 clubs that went into this European Super League, right? They have shown their true colours, their true hand, okay? So I'm not going to say that Man City are an abomination. Manchester City are like every single club that's in the Premiership, bar maybe 2 or 3, and the ones that are in Germany, Spain, and France. I mean, you look at Paris Saint-Germain. Paris Saint-Germain can't even win a poor French league, and they've got 2 of the most expensive players on their forward line, right? Real Madrid. Shall I start with Real Madrid? Real Madrid, and I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm going to say it out loud. They are a bastard club. They are fascists. When they were in big trouble 20 years ago, the Spanish government bought their training ground for €400, 400 million, and promptly gave it back to them. Now, You tell me, is that fair? Is that equitable? Is
Oh.
that right? No, it's not. So Manchester City are doing nothing wrong.
I guess
They
the
are-
point I'm
They
getting,
are,
Jimmy,
Chris.
Jimmy,
They are.
Jimmy, the point I'm getting at is soccer is being destroyed.
It was destroyed years ago.
But
I've had this argument, Pat, with it became quite hot and heavy with a Manchester United supporter. I think there is a difference, Chris, between some of the owners and the people like the Glazers and the Dubai people or whoever they're from who own City, and the guys who own PSG, the guys who own Bayern, the guys who own Red Bull. The minute a soccer club or any sporting organization, the minute it's turned into a limited company, it becomes a business toy for the filthy rich. The problem I have with City is how filthy rich they are when they were found guilty of breaking financial fair play rules
Okay.
that UEFA laid down. They spent their money to go to the Court of Arbitration in Sport and they got off. And basically a message was sent out there. We have so much money. We're so rich. We can do whatever we sweet like. And I agree with Chris. It's appalling. Some
is.
clubs, I would defend Liverpool because they would be my club, and I would defend Chelsea because they're also a club that I actually follow. Chelsea, because Abramovich is a football nut who just wants to have a high-level club. He just has pots of money to do it. He doesn't care if Chelsea don't make a penny in the morning. He doesn't care. And John Henry has invested in other sports clubs. He has a couple of baseball teams in the States, a
Yes.
couple of basketball teams. So he's a sporting investor rather than anything else. But the Glazers, United are over $1 billion in debt, and yet the Glazers are taking money out of the club.
Yeah.
That's accountants playing
Yeah.
with a product.
Yeah.
And that in the long term is going to do huge damage.
Absolutely.
When the shit hits the fan, they'll pack their bags and they'll go, and the club will be
Well,
destroyed.
I think what's happening, Jimmy, is you talk about Man City. I think that what the pandemic has done here, it has basically showing soccer fans that, do you know what? There is another life out there, because they have now been shown that these guys who, you've seen what happened at the beginning of the pandemic when the likes of Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool try to put the guys on furlough on wage subsidy schemes.
Yeah.
Right? And that backfired big time. Okay. And it also proves that soccer can still go on without fans in the stadium, right?
Yes.
Because technically no club has gone through all as of yet in the Premier League. So they can continue. And the only reason they came back last year early was because the likes of BT, the likes of Sky were going to stop the payments, and they had to find a way to come back. There were certain matches that shouldn't have went ahead because of COVID. Right, we talk about Kilkenny and Wexford here in the hurling that didn't go ahead last weekend, but there were some certain matches last year that should not have gone ahead because there was COVID cases. And I'm not saying it was hushed up, but what I'm saying was that there was a lot of circumvention of the rules that was going on then. And I think, they all say it makes 21 days to make a habit, 21 days to break a habit. And I just get the feeling supporters are now going to look at their money and thinking, do you know what? I can do better than waste money going up, because really, do my club care? And all they're talking about now, while people are in the midst of what's going to be the worst recession in about maybe 60 years, in a couple of years' time, is can these clubs afford Harry Kane's wages?
Before we finish,
I think actually, sorry, Pat, if I could just follow on from what Chris was saying there. I think something else that when I was looking at the Manchester United supporters breaking into the ground and the whole lot, I think any football supporter with a brain has learned in the last 12 months something that wasn't true until the big money marched in. And that was the guys who own these clubs don't give a shit if anybody goes to watch a game. In other words, they're saying to the fans, we don't need your money.
No.
You're just someone who comes in and makes it a spectacle.
They're consumers.
That I can say is great. And as Chris said, people are going to say, well, if I don't matter to the club, I can do more with my, whatever it is, £1,500 for a season ticket.
Yes.
How should I do that? I can spend 20 quid a month on Sky Sports and see not only my team, but loads of other teams, and still have money left over. So it's actually going to hurt the sport, I think.
Yeah.
It'll certainly hurt that level of the sport.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I'm totally out of step in there with soccer because I have the romantic idea of bringing down my grandson to see his hero from up the road playing with his local team. But I guess time has outlived all those beautiful romantic notions about the beautiful game. However, it's not for us here to solve that problem. On the final whistle on LairMedia.tv with Chris, Jimmy and myself, and the lads will be coming with you every week from now on with the final whistle. I suppose we're going to have one look at Gaelic football that happened over the weekend, and that was the Dublin Kerry perennial game. The clash of Dublin and Limerick, and that was
Dublin's team for this home match, which is being played in Thurles, shows the return of Michael Fitzsimons to the champions' full back line, with Sean McMahon part of an attack featuring Cormac Costello, who was the tormentor of Roscommon last week at number 15. Meanwhile, Kerry, fresh from their overwhelming win over Galway, have one change. It's in the middle of the park where Diarmuid O'Connor replaces Jack Barry. And the Clifford brothers, David and Paddy, ready to test themselves today against the 6 times All-Ireland champions. The expectation in Kerry in particular is great where this particular match is concerned. There's a feeling Kerry people are saying they have to win this. Gainey going by James McCarthy. Clifford, thought there was a foul there, referee didn't blow for it. Clifford kicks. He'll be glad that the play continued. He gets his first point of the afternoon. Well, that's a bit more like it from David Clifford. And the Kerry attack now in full flow. And Clifford making it 4 points to 1. On Merchant. They'll remember him and Kerry for that goal he got in the early moments of the 2019 replayed All-Ireland final. I always remember Brian Fenton. Kieran Kilkenny, they worked hard to make this happen. It's O'Callaghan. What a goal after all of that. Con O'Callaghan from Cuala. Well, it's a goal which has come here in the 14th minute. Dublin had possession for a long time, maybe up to 60 seconds in all, with all the passes that were going on. But in the end, it was that decisive ball given by Kieran Kilkenny to Con O'Callaghan, and he makes it 1-1 to 4 points. Teams are level for the first time. That's carried on well by Owen Merchant. Paddy Small. Again back in here to Small. The angle getting very tight, and that is finished in the back of the net. Once again, it is Cormac Costello as sharp as ever. 113 last week, a goal after 21 minutes. Dara Moynihan. Dublin retreat. They look for the main target man inside there, David Clifford, on his right this time. Right or left, it doesn't matter. From those kind of distances, he's sure to score. That's a third, and the gap is eaten into, and now it's just a 2-point game. Dara Moynihan has got 2 so far here, looking to make it a 1-point game if he can. And the referee's got to bring it back. It's not going to count. He's furious, but the referee had blown his whistle that time before the ball was kicked. That was a nice little move there by Dara Moynihan, and he got it in past goalkeeper Evan Comerford. Sean O'Shea so far has 1 point to his name from open play. It was the first point of the match. So a second now coming from a free. And it is now 2-5. That's 11 points to 9 points for Kerry. 2 between them. Dublin's turn now to see whether they can get the last point of this half. It bounces awkwardly. It's Con O'Callaghan, and it's in the back of the Kerry net. And they've now got a third. And O'Callaghan has helped himself to 2. In the 36th minute, 2 goals, Con O'Callaghan. The bounce deceiving the Kerry backs, and finished clinically. And all of a sudden there's a little pep in the Kerry step. We're in the 12th minute of the second half. Darragh Moynihan's attacking, playing it back here to David Clifford, looking to add to the points he got in the first half, and that'll do nicely. They've got 3 in a row now. Suddenly it's beginning to change a little bit. Maybe there is a degree of self-belief coming into Kerry, finding a bit of rhythm. Ooh, that's a difficult one with O'Connor coming in, and O'Connor does remarkably well, Diarmuid O'Connor. 2 men against him when he played that ball forward to Shonny O'Shea. David Clifford taking it on the loop and kicking it. It's quite a run now. Kerry coming, looking to win this, and they do so impressively in the middle of the field. And again, it's Diarmuid O'Connor from the Naguil club. Paul Murphy raiding down into Tommy Walsh, takes the return. Here's a chance, and that ball's gone up and over the bar. It's 2 in a row from Paul Murphy. And the teams are level for the 3rd time in this match. It's 3-8 for Dublin, 17 points for Kerry. A match that Dublin were literally running away with at half-time, 6 points up. And now it really is anybody's match. Taken very quickly in here. And that is Darragh Mullen who's come in as well. This is Con O'Callaghan, he goes down. Is that a penalty? The referee awards a penalty to Dublin. This is what was happening here. It's Diarmuid O'Connor as the player involved. An important moment for Dublin in this match, completed very clinically by Costello.
I don't remember this, but I know you are, Pat. I can remember when a young, gorgeous footballer for Kerry in the All-Ireland got the shit kicked out of him in a final. And they stopped him. They stopped him by baiting him, knocking him to the ground, trampling on him, and the whole lot. And nothing happened to him. So I speak as somebody who, when I played soccer, I was a fancy down player. I didn't like getting kicked, but I'll give them one thing. The referees give you some protection in soccer. After that game, I thought, that's not a game that I even want to see. The word sport should not have been applied to Gaelic football.
But we finished with Gaelic football because we haven't much time left. I think I have to mention, not because I'm living in Shannon or anything like that, but Owen Cleary, I give a bull of bus to Owen Cleary because they went up to Kildare as Clare footballers. They went up to Newbridge yesterday and played a pretty tough Kildare team, and they won it by 3 points. Owen Cleary kicked 7 points, but that's not what that was good enough in itself. But he was just fantastic. He caught my eye. I saw it live actually, the match, because it was played for shown live in lieu of the Wexford Kilkenny match, and that's why I got to see it live. And I thought Owen Cleary was just phenomenal. I don't know, do you know him, Chris, or any of the lads?
I don't know him personally, no.
He's a great footballer. The final whistle, before we finish up the program tonight, we won't get through everything as I said, but I have to mention the French Open tennis began last week.
No, I think it's not starting for another week. I think this week is the kind of the qualifiers, and I think next Monday is the first round proper. Sunday is the first round proper.
We have to mention, I know, Jimmy, are you a fan of tennis? We have to mention Rafael Nadal when it comes to the French Open, because he's won 13 of them. And he's going for his 14th French Open, 14th Grand Slam. There's 4 Grand Slams. This is one of them, the second one of the year. He's beaten Federer in 4. I was looking up the statistic before we came on here. He's beaten Roger Federer in 4 finals. And he's beaten Djokovic in 2 of them. And then he's beaten Dominic Thiem in recent times in 2 of them. And he beat Djokovic last year in the final. So what do you think of him, Jimmy, Rafael Nadal? Are you a fan of tennis?
Oh, God, I am. And I did play tennis, and I played it at a reasonably good level. So I would know something about it. And I've seen them all. I've seen all the greats. I actually saw Rod Laver playing live. So that's how long I've been following tennis. And of them all, I think the best player I've ever seen, definitely without doubt, is Federer. But it just goes to show that the surface makes a huge amount of difference to the type of game a tennis player plays. And the clay in Roland Garros most definitely suits Nadal. It suits the strong attacking
game.
power player more than anything else. So good luck to him. I mean, and he's certainly a committed player. He is very good. I'm not saying he's not good, but I couldn't see him win 14 Wimbledons in a row. Equally, I think there's very few people who are going to beat him in Roland Garros because he just loves that surface. He really does. It suits his game, sliding around.
Yeah, just as we're talking about Nadal, he won his first one in 2005 against, I never heard of him, I must say I'm not a big tennis fan, Manuel Puerta was his name, from Argentina, and Nadal beat him in the final. And then he beat Federer 3-0 after. But Jimmy or Chris, what do you think? Do you like tennis?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Federer's my man. Federer is my man. Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching McEnroe and Connors and Borg, right?
Yeah.
And that was, the late 70s, early 80s.
You cannot be serious.
Brilliant. Not seriously, yeah. Chalk flew up. That's exactly what it was. And I mean, McEnroe was just McEnroe. And this is the thing about technology. McEnroe would have won another 6, maybe 10 majors if Hawkeye was in his time, because he was ridden big time, right? Yeah. And it was his personality that he was an arrogant argumentative. He's a nice guy now. People mellow, even the likes of Jimmy O'Brien mellow at a certain point in their life. Yeah. So if McEnroe can do it, so can Jimmy O'Brien. So the point is that that was the heyday of tennis, and I just think the matches between Nadal. If you remember the boxing between, like, there was Nigel Benn, Eubank, and there was Michael Watson, right? And then there was an upstart from Dublin called Stephen Collins that came in. Tennis was exactly the same, where you had Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, and then Murray would try and poke his way in. I just think Nadal is just a clay court specialist. It suits him. He fights for every point. I'm surprised he's gone on so long, because there's sometimes you think, you know what, give that game up. You wait till you get your serve, but he just fights for every point. And I think it's a detriment to tennis these days when you look at it. I mean, Federer was what, 30, 30, what is he? He's 40 now, right? Is he as old as that? Nadal is about 35. Djokovic is 33, and Murray's finished. Murray's finished, and there's nobody else. Yeah. There really is nobody else coming through. And so I think when these three guys go in the next 2 or 3 years' time, there's going to be a dearth of tennis players because they're not good enough. And this is a bit like some guys in golf. The hunger is not there.
Jimmy, to probably go like the women's tennis where you have a different player winning every Grand Slam,
Yeah. I can live with that, but I fully agree with Chris as well. There's no standout confrontations coming once those three are gone.
They're gone, yeah.
Take away Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal. And Federer, I think, much as I admire him, much as I love the kind of tennis he plays, he's only still winning because of exactly what Chris is saying. Yeah. There's nobody coming through. They're breezing through. This is an old guy. He's 38, right? Tennis is most definitely of all.
And he's only played about maybe 6 tournaments in the last 2.5 years, Jimmy.
That's all. He's pacing himself. But he goes to Wimbledon and he can beat anybody in the first couple of rounds because there's nobody coming through. If he slips up, it's a mistake. I can remember. Do you remember, Chris, when the this happened once before? Do you remember they used to? I can't remember what his name was. They used to call him Mr. Hairy. He was an American tennis player, and he was winning everything year in, year out, and there was nobody up against him. This would be just pre Federer and Djokovic.
Was that Sampras?
Sampras, Pete Sampras.
Yeah.
Pete Sampras was winning everything because there was nobody up against him. Yeah. There was no competition really. And tennis is in serious danger of arriving at a stage where there's only one player of any level of skill who's just going to keep winning.
Yeah, you see, the thing about the women's tennis is this, right? Is that while there has been so many different winners. The standard has been so poor. I mean, you take it, there was one of those clay courts events about 2 weeks ago. The final, and you're talking about, was it Pliskova or whatever, the girl from Czech
Yeah.
Republic, who was
Yeah.
world number one at a time. She lost the final 6-love, 6-love. Now, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
lads. I remember, you know, Borg losing a set 6-love, Connors losing a set 6-love, McEnroe losing a set, and then winning the following set 6-love. But I've never seen anybody in men's
Five
tennis lose 3
points.
sets 6-love, 6-love, 6-love. And then and here's the thing you're going to have to look at, lads, and look at when you see some of these men and women who are not even within an arse's roar of winning a tournament, and the millions that they earn. It's shocking. I mean,
It's going back to what we started the program
Yeah.
with.
Back to hunger.
And no motivation.
they don't have Pat, it's very, very, listen, the motivation that gets us out of bed in the morning to go to work is that we have a mortgage to pay. But when you've got so much that everything is paid for, what motivation do you have to get out of bed in the first place?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's the problem with sport at the moment. And I would be hoping that in the next couple of years, and here's the funny thing about sport, lads, right? That the only country in the world, in the West, the only Western country, right, that actually preaches socialism in sport are the Yanks when it comes to the major leagues. They have salary caps. They ensure that the last place gets the first pick at next year's pick. They have a draft where the worst team gets the best player. I mean, could you see that in soccer in England or in any other country? No. So the point that, I mean, everyone was set about the capitalist way that America runs its economy. Yet when it comes down to sport, it's actually a very socialist way of doing things.
Yeah.
But before we finish,
very balanced. Yeah.
I want to say we want to wish Rafael Nadal well anyway in the French Open, because it's phenomenal what he's done. I know what the thing about, there's always been on about grass and hard court and clay courts. However, it's still an achievement to win 13 Grand Slams in the one area, and even on clay, it's still a huge achievement. And he seems to be.
You're only saying that, Pat, because Rafa Nadal is Mary Honan's favourite tennis player.
Yeah.
And she's made you say that. So
Yeah.
come on, come clean.
I think she has it written down. Just put up the piece of paper. Put out the piece of paper where it says you must mention Nadal.
You must mention
Simple as
Nadal.
that.
You must praise Nadal.
I don't worry, I let it out this week.
No, Mary will.
But
Look,
from this,
if we're going to get listen, well, I put it this way: if Mary wants us to mention Nadal in glowing terms, then she has to line up the interview with them.
yes.
Yeah,
She has
and in English, by the way, not
she has
Spanish.
a contact who has met a lot of those players, so maybe that might be an outside possibility, but certainly not this time of the year. But anyway, lads, we've come to the end of the inaugural edition, our launch really here on Learn Media, of the final whistle, which will be our regular music, or our regular
Music.
as well. Regular,
The show must go on, Pat.
every week.
Can I make one comment?
Yeah.
Last weekend, for the first time ever, I found myself watching two French teams playing and was passionate about seeing one of them winning, because, God forgive me, a Cork man was their second in command.
Oh, we were going to mention La Rochelle and
I know.
the European Cup, and fair play to
Raj.
Ronan O'Gara, of course, people who might know who we're speaking about. He has been a phenomenal influence in that team, because it's not just because he's from Cork. Definitely
Causing for dramatic effect. Yep.
but he has, and he's huge at, because he's coached in Australia as well. People shouldn't forget, and he's just a great brain, a great rugby brain.
Well, he's going to take over from John O'Gibbs at La Rochelle. He's going to be first in command next year.
And the one
And
thing
that's a fact, like, that's not just conjecture. La Rochelle have said it. John O'Gibbs is leaving La Rochelle.
Chris Price has offered as well, and Chris will be doing a regular sporting blog, a tongue-in-cheek blog, and no oblique look at what sport. We'll say we won't use any more big words, Chris, But you can use as many as you like. We don't mind one bit.
I'll use a big word now. It'll be apt.
Sorry. So for this edition, lads, it's been a blast from the final whistle, and Chris and Jimmy will be with you every week. And we let you know anyway with all our postings, and we'll settle on the final whistle on LearnMedia.tv. And thanks, lads, for taking the time out of your night.
Take it
And
easy.
until we meet again, lad, I'll be in touch with you anyway. Take care, and goodbye for now.
Okay.
Mind yourself.
Bye bye.
Mind yourself, guys. Cheers.